evening and welcome to tonight's webinar. Tonight's webinar is on reproductive performance, but before we start with that, as we're now halfway through the series for this year, I think it's time to decide if the demand is there to do something similar for next year. We can keep the format the same as this year, in which case you need to let us know which topics you'd like covered. We can also change the format slightly if there are topics that you'd like covered in more detail. And perhaps we could have a mini series of 2 or 3 webinars on a single topic within the webinar series. So whatever you'd like, we want to hear your views. Either email the SVS Secretariat, and the address is on the website, or you can use the Yahoo group discussion group to let us know what you want for next year. So really it's up to you guys who are participating to let us know what you want, and we'll do our best to make sure it's available. So the more feedback the better on that one. Right, so on to tonight's webinar, reproductive performance. For me, reproductive performance means getting the right number of lambs on the ground at the right time. And the number and the time is I think is as important as each other. So just as a quick reminder, we'll look at some target lambing percentages. So it's generally accepted that for a hill flock we want between 100 and 120%. For an upland flock, 140 to 160%. And a lowland flock, 160 to 180%. And by lambing percentage we mean lambs sold or retained for breeding per ewe put to the tup. And it's a good idea to remind your flock managers of this definition every time you're discussing figures, as most of them will quote scanning figures or other things that their neighbours have plucked out of the air. So first we'll look at some of the factors affecting ewe performance, and this is every bit as important in the pedigree world as it is in the commercial world. Many of the management factors we can influence will have a bearing on ovulation rates, but there are several steps from ovulation to conception, conception to scanning, to lambs born alive, and to lambing percentage, where losses always occur. For example, hill ewes will often have an ovulation rate approaching 200%, but it's not possible or even desirable to try and convert all of these into lambs. In very basic terms, for a ewe to be able to hit target ovulation and conception rates, she needs to be not lame, of the correct body condition score, with no trace element deficiencies or imbalances, free from any infectious abortion agents, and cycling or ready to cycle when the rams are introduced. So if we look a bit closer, lameness, we're all agreed that lameness will have a detrimental effect on the individual ewe and the reproductive performance of the flock. But can we quantify this? I think it's important that we put a figure on the reduction in lamb numbers or the economic cost to the flock, because we do need to be able to persuade the farmer to change their management practices to reduce the incidence of lameness in the ewe flock. Reading University has a foot rot model, which is a useful cost calculator and predictive tool. And this is thanks largely to the work put in by the team headed up by Fiona Lovett 18 months or 2 years ago. So this model, the website's there, is a very useful predictive tool for looking at the costs associated with lameness and the cost benefit of effective treatment. The other cost calculator models for sheep on this site have not had the same level of input and will unfortunately give misleading results.